out of his car. Don't go that way. Don't signal to the guy across the street. Do your business and get back in this car. And he had hit her a couple times prior to her getting out of the car. He used the bathroom to make sure she got back in the car. Alexis told her that she was afraid of the man, and the man told her if she got away, he would find her. I have since put the detectives in touch with the young lady who rode the bus with her. I don't know that they have called her. According to her, no one's called her to confirm her story or to even listen to what she had to say to this day.
Another detail that could be important was a message that Alexis sent to a friend stating that she had names and phone numbers. Could Alexis have found information about those who had taken her, and could that information have put her in danger?
She said she had names and phone numbers. Apparently, at some point in time, the guy who took her, they would end up in a hotel somewhere in California, and she didn't know his name. She was on his laptop and found out his name to be Chris. And in the process of her trying to find out who she was with and where she was at, she got some names and phone numbers off this laptop, and she sent this to somebody telling them, I got names and phone numbers. Now, what that meant, I don't know. I don't know if, how to connect those dots together, but the name Chris came up from the girl who rode the bus with her. That's all she could recall from their conversation, that his name was Chris. And at some point in time, she had inboxed a friend of hers here in Peoria, I believe, in which she told them she had names and phone numbers. And this was during her trip back. Exactly what that meant, I don't know. I don't know if that meant she had some good contacts for having an extravagant life, or if she had contacts relating to her situation. Not really sure if that meant she had drug contacts. I really don't know what that meant, because there was no. The sentence basically was incomplete. It could have meant anything.
After learning all of this information about what had happened to Alexis, April began doing more research about human trafficking.
Yeah, I've done so much research on trafficking. I knew very little about it, even though I work for the public school system. It's not something we talk about. We talk about everything else, but for some reason this has never come up in high school. And I've been in high school probably for about 16 years now. And I never remember any service on it or having an assembly on it, anything to let kids know you be aware of your surroundings and who you associate with and how you associate. Nothing to this effect. So I basically have done my research on the situation since I've become privy to the fact that this could be a possibility, a real possibility. What I've read is they bring them over a process of a couple years, maybe a few months. Usually it's a year or so to get to know them, their habits, and to increase whatever capacity they may be at. Like if it's drug use or alcohol use, they will make sure they get it for free, make sure they get as much as they want, whenever they want, kind of get them the clothes they want, the hairstyles or wigs or nails done or whatever, tattoos, whatever makes them happy to win their confidence.
While April was researching human trafficking, she started to realize that the grooming process that's so commonly used was very similar to what she had watched happen with her own daughter. After Alexis and her son's father had broken up, she was in a place that left her more vulnerable to the clever tactics that these people used to draw victims in.
When I look back, I see exactly that happening over the last year or two, because she had a baby about 2 years ago. So shortly after that, her and the father parted ways, and she, I guess, began reaching out, I guess is the way to put it, to find herself, to find a new life, to get her head out of the fact that they weren't going to be together. He was abusive to her, and she wasn't planning on going back to him, although she went several times to take him back to visit his father, who lives in Chicago. She knew, based on their interactions, that they would never be the family that she had hoped for. So I believe that kind of put her into a distraught state of mind, thinking, well, we're going to have a happy family here, and we're going to have a good life together and live together and all that, which I never condoned them living together and actually didn't support it in any way. I offered her the opportunity to live at home, to go back to school, to go to college, so that she would never have to live that kind of life and suffer the consequences that go with shacking up. So I was totally against that, and I'm sure that caused some heartache for her and stress in our relationship together. I didn't necessarily approve of her friends or the contacts she had. I personally wouldn't have chosen a lot of the people that she frequently visited and partied with. Just even if I was her age, I could just see that they weren't the type of people that you ought to be with on every day or once a week or once a month. So a lot of them I wouldn't have dealt with at all. But because she was my daughter and is my daughter, I kind of went along with whatever she was doing just to keep our relationship together for the sake of the child, for the sake of her sanity, because I knew she possibly could be going through some kind of depression with having a child early in her life, and I just wanted to be as supportive as I possibly could. So a lot of things I put up with that I probably shouldn't have, and had she not been my daughter, I certainly would not have, but she was, and is, so.
We've all seen a mouth-watering healthy smoothie on Instagram or Pinterest and thought, that's the kind of thing I should be eating, but who has time to make that every day? Wouldn't it be great if you could get those picture-perfect nutrients without having to hit the farmer's market and chop up a million fruits and vegetables? Now you can get your superfoods super fast with Daily Harvest. One possible source of information that could be very helpful is the phone that Alexis had with her. That phone is still missing. April had mentioned that she didn't currently have the phone activated, but would use apps like Facebook while on Wi-Fi to communicate with people. A complicating factor is that it appears that Alexis may have logged into her Facebook account on devices that belong to others. So no one is quite sure if activity on her Facebook account was Alexis or someone else.
The problem is that she had logged into several people's phones according to the people that we have been in touch with who claim to be close to her. I find it hard to believe that she changed her password when she came, well, before she came back from this trip, doing her Great Island trip, she used her friend's phone and she logged into her account, her Facebook account, and she changed her password. And I remember because she told me that she was going to change it because somebody had taken her phone while she was out there and she didn't have access to her account, and she could see that somebody was posting to her page and she didn't know who it was. So I said, well, yeah, you better hurry up and change it. You never know, people can put it on your page. I've told you 1,000 times, don't stay logged into your Facebook when you log out of your phone or whatever it is you use. Make sure you log out. And we've gone around about this since she was in middle school. But nonetheless, somebody had actually posted to her page. She changed her password. When all this came about, I didn't know so many people were logged into her, had access to her Facebook or an inbox and all that because they had the password, which I'm not understanding how one of her friends got the password unless she had used it in the past at some point in time. And she was able to give that password to the detective in charge of the case. Yeah, basically I'm sitting there in awe of how she got it. She's like, yeah, I got the password. This is the first time she said anything to me about it, although we've talked several times, or had spoken several times prior to this, because she was the one who told me about the friend who had sent her the inbox saying Alexis was fearful for her life. So I'm wondering, I'm not saying anything, but I'm wondering while I'm sitting by her, okay, so you had this information the whole time and you never bothered to tell me. So I just thought it was kind of weird that she knew it the whole time and never said, hey, Mom, all her friends tell me, Mom, let's go look in her inbox and see what's going on. But she told me she had been looking into the inbox the whole time, and she gave that information to the detective and told him how to get in. I guess he didn't know how to log into Facebook. It was his first time, according to him. But not only did she have it, which this young lady and her had not spoken since August to break up with her boyfriend that she had been dating over the summer, her and he and she fell out. They were basically just stopped talking. The friend was supposed to go on the trip to Las Vegas as well, who had the password. Some kind of way she backed out. She didn't end up going at all. So I'm just shocked that she would even have it because according to her and Alexis hadn't spoken since before she went on the trip to Las Vegas. There's a lot of things in the air that just don't make sense to me right now. I'm sure they will later on, but right now they don't.
That piece of information really stuck out to me. If Alexis and her friend had a falling out in August and had not spoken since that time, and then Alexis changed her password after the Vegas trip, how did this friend have the new password? This is just one of the many strange details that don't quite add up. The detective handling her case is trying to gather more information about who was accessing her account.
according to detective, have subpoenaed several phones and Facebook accounts that she had contact with. Who and what, I don't know. But I was told it was at least 8 people. Or 8 phones, one or the other. I'm not sure if it's a phone or people, but yeah. Or accounts, I'm sorry.
April has become very frustrated with the way that the local police department has handled her daughter's case. She received a very frightening message about Alexis a few weeks after her disappearance, and they didn't respond with any sense of urgency.
On October the 11th or 10th, it's the first time I went to City Hall here in Peoria, Illinois, to voice my concerns about needing help and feeling like nothing was being done to actually move this case along with the information that I had. On October the 10th, after I left, or on my way to City Hall, I got a message saying that one of the girls who was affiliated with the guy who paid for the ticket said that she had sold SOLD, my daughter, 2 weeks prior to a man. She didn't know who the man was, or at least she didn't tell who that man was. When I called the police station to report what I had been told after leaving City Hall for the first time, no officer came out. I was told that since this was an active investigation, the detective in charge would get in touch with me. Nobody came the entire night. Nobody called the next day. On October 11th, the next day, I called sex trafficking and reported and was given a case number. Now, whether they took it and said, yes, we're going to go ahead and work the case or not, is something I don't know about, because they told me they wouldn't call back to let me know if they were involved or not. But on October the 11th, I moved forward because nobody else would. Several people since then have made calls who are part of my campaign to get the FBI involved. So there are several different case numbers at this point. Which one is doing what, I don't know. There's been no contact with me by anybody from the FBI. But I did do my part as a parent. When I was told, I was like livid. I'm like real sold. And it was about that week that I knew about her concern about being kidnapped, about her concern about somebody looking for her, fillers basically being sent out to find her at any cost. So yeah, it makes sense to me. Now I can't make it make sense to the men who are involved in this case, who are supposed to be in authority, but it definitely all fits together.
When April receives tips, she reports them to the police, hoping that they'll quickly act on these tips, since some of them seem to be very time-sensitive. She's become frustrated time and time again after learning that her messages sat in a voicemail account because the detective was on vacation, and no one was checking the messages. Just a small amount of communication letting her know to speak to someone else in the department during these times would make her feel a lot better about the way her daughter's case is being handled. I know that sometimes law enforcement officials look at these cases like it's just another day, another case. But to April, that's her daughter, and that's her world. April has been doing everything in her power to try to locate Alexis and bring her home. She keeps going back to what happened on that trip to Vegas and can't help but believe that there's some connection. The police department isn't convinced. The fact that Alexis was expressing fear for her life leading up to her disappearance is not something that she can look past.
It was the 18th or 19th or so that she put that information out there that somebody had been bothering her, that she was definitely concerned for her life and her well-being. So no, I can't let that go. And yes, I do have to connect those dots to that trip, yes. And those people involved at that time.
The fact that Alexis had worked as an escort has made some people wonder if she could have gone out to work that evening and something bad happened. April told me that from what she can tell based on what Alexis was wearing that night and the communications she had with others, she believes that Alexis intended to simply hang out with friends that evening.
Even though she may have had a prior life to where she chose to date or make her money however she made it, that's not what she was doing that night. That night she was going to meet up with people that she thought were her friends, people that she had been associating with for at least 9 months to a year. So that night is all we're concerned about, that night. Not what she was doing in her life to make ends meet for herself or for whatever reason she was doing it. What was she doing that night? Was she answering an ad that night? Was she had a proposition that night? That's not what I'm getting. I'm getting she had plans to meet up with friends. She had been stressed out about what had happened to her 3 weeks prior. She just needed to chill and relax, get her mind back, and sounds like she was set up to me.
April doesn't know exactly what happened to Alexis, but there is a scenario that she thinks may be likely.
At this point, I think she got to be drugged up. By them telling me that she had been getting high in the car when she got to this house and it's a party, and there's free drugs of all sorts there, and alcohol. She could have met her capacity. She could have got, to the point where she blanked out or passed out, depending on what kind of drug it was. And she may have just not even known what was happening to her and been taken off somewhere. I don't believe any of the story that I've heard about her leaving. I don't believe any of that. The videos in the area don't confirm her coming or going, which I have a problem with that. I don't know if the videos were edited or she never actually went to the house and they're saying she did. I don't know, but there's no proof one way or other that she was there, and there's no proof one way or another that she left. Only hearsay. It's all hearsay.
When I look at all of the details that we know about this case, one thing that really sticks out to me are these people who were supposedly her friends. I think that Alexis had been hanging around this group of people believing them to be friends, when in reality they had bad intentions. Remember April mentioned when Alexis was in Vegas, she passed out in a car and woke up and the friend she had flown out there with was gone. That friend made it back home on her scheduled flight, so was she part of a possible setup? April told me more about her conversations with this so-called friend.
I remember talking to the young lady she was supposed to fly back with, claiming she knew where Alexis was in California, that she was going to go get her, and she ended up not doing so. Then turned around and said that she didn't know where Alexis was. I believe my daughter gave her the location of where she was in California, believing that her friend would come and get her, and they never came. I believe that information was passed on to the person who paid for the tickets to California or to Vegas, and a setup was put in place at that time for whatever happened in California. Again, the same friend is the one who was supposed to have been with her on the trip to California with these strangers, and woke up and my daughter wasn't aware where she was or where her friend had gone off to. So the friend does know. The friend refuses to give any more information, claims she knows nothing, but her inbox to me say something totally different than a live video that she made, basically telling me off, I guess. But when I compare what she told me in my inbox to the live video she made, the story doesn't add up. I haven't responded to her at all because the proof is in what she sent originally. So there's nothing really to say except for you're lying somewhere along the line. And that's me telling her that is not going to make it any better. You're lying and nobody needs to tell you. I've also shared this information with the detectives to basically blow me off. They don't want to connect the dots to what happened 3 weeks prior, even though it's pretty obvious from my point of view as a parent what happened and how. But to everybody else, it's like, couldn't have happened that way. This is a theory. That's just a theory. Everything is just a theory.
From what I've been able to gather, I believe this man who sent Alexis to Vegas puts himself out there as a party promoter, looking for beautiful women to be models and backup dancers. And then he pulls a bait and switch on them. These young women, like Alexis, see a promise of a modeling career and a lavish lifestyle. But it's not everything that it appears to be. I think what happened to Alexis is important for people to hear, because you just never know when the same thing could happen to someone you love, like a friend, a daughter, or a sister. I also believe that there could be women involved in this recruiting process. With Alexis, I think this friend who went with her to Vegas may have known what was going to happen. But Alexis most likely had her guard down, because she just thought she was flying out to Vegas with a friend. Then she woke up and her friend was gone and she was being held by 2 men. So what happened to Alexis Scott in the early morning hours of September 23rd, 2017? Did she become a victim of human trafficking? Her mom believes that she could have been taken again by the same group of people who were involved in Vegas. If this is what happened, Alexis could have been taken anywhere. What about the message that April received saying that her daughter was sold to a man? Or could Alexis have been targeted as some sort of revenge for escaping the first time around? Why are there conflicting stories regarding who dropped her off at that house on Richmond Avenue? There may be answers to some of these questions. There is surveillance video from a car wash across the street from that home, but April has never been allowed to see what's on the video. I do believe that this may be one of those cases where there are conflicting stories put out there to muddy the waters. I know that some people will judge Alexis for working as an escort, but please remember that at the end of the day, she is a mother, a daughter, and a friend. All of those people who love Alexis are victims of this as well. No one had the right to make Alexis go missing. If you have any information about the disappearance of Alexis Scott, April has requested that you please contact her, which you can do in several ways. I will be including April's email address in the show notes. You can also contact April on Facebook, where there's a group called Alex Camry Scott Campaign. If you have a tip that you want to submit there on Facebook, she just asks that you don't post a tip in the group, but instead private message one of the administrators of the group or April herself. The number for the Peoria Police Department is 309-673-4521. To remain anonymous, you can call Crime Stoppers at 309-673-9000. Here's a clip of April describing her daughter. There's been some misinformation put out there regarding her appearance, and April wanted to clear that up.
There's one thing that does need to be corrected that I don't know where the information came from, and I don't know how it keeps popping up. My daughter's weight is between 110 and 115 pounds. She's a very thin frame, 5'2" young lady. Her skin tone changes all the time. She's biracial or multiracial rather. Today she could have a tan, and hey, a couple of days that could be gone. And it's really hard to actually depict what color she is. But she does have hues of tan, brown, that. But at no time does she ever stay the same, which none of us do once we go out in the sun. But she definitely does not stay the same as far as color tone. So, and she has very fine hair. She chooses to wear a wig. Why, I don't know. Her hair will grow down to her back. She left hair natural, meaning her hair was, she washed, shampooed, and pulled it up in a ponytail is what I was told, without a wig. I've checked for her wig. Everything that she would have used if she was actually going on a date is still here. So she never left with any clothes, no makeup. Only thing that's missing out of this house that belongs to her is the clothes she had on, her Jordan she had on, and her ID. That's it. All her bags, her carry-along bags, and she never goes anywhere. Even if she's going out with her girlfriends, does she not take a purse or a carry-along bag if she knows she's going to stay overnight? She had nothing. Everything is here, everything, even her toothbrush.
That brings us to the end of episode 110. I'd like to thank April for taking the time to speak with me. If you'd like to reach me, I'm on Facebook, where there's a page and a discussion group. I'm on Twitter @TheVanishedPod and on Instagram as well.